I got you. It's fine. I just think I'm going to have to start the old service again, aren't I? Due to the fact that, I didn't have any... Yeah, thank you, son. Already we've had a problem where the music doesn't work. I don't understand what's wrong with the audio mixer. Let's start again, shall we? Welcome, brethren and sistren, and those who don't like to pigeonhole themselves. Welcome, geeks, freaks, and the totally unique. In the words of the blessed sister Kelly Clarkson, this is for the lost, the damned, and the forgotten. It's hard to get high when you're living on the bottom. We are all misfits, living in a world on fire, and this is the first of my SWDP weekly, well, mostly weekly, I haven't really kind of fully decided on that, Discordian services. So if you are a Discordian and you've not experienced a Discordian service before, that's probably because there aren't that many. I've managed to find a YouTube of like one in the past, and it was a guy who, I can't remember what he did at the beginning, a little bit of ranting, and then he watched cartoons for 2 hours straight. So that's like one type of Discordian experience. This one will be a completely different experience. So shuffle in, take your seat at the plas and in the pews. Don't spit on each other, or indeed in the spittoons. They're purely for storage of lost Fnords. We are going to go through a number of phases in tonight's service, all designed to propitiate and to glorify our goddess mother, ERIS. Hail, ERIS, of course. And we shall. I shall run through the order of service, just in case you're wondering what you've got yourself into. And by the end of running through the order of service, you'll know that you are in trouble. Oh, by the way, I have not got channel points on at the moment because, one, there should be a sign somewhere saying don't try and redeem channel points. It's a service. I can't interrupt it. It's more of a sort of performance, really. There will be interactivity, but you shouldn't try and redeem channel points as if this is a gaming stream. It's not a gaming stream. But I didn't have time to make the banner. I had time to make a service, and so that's what I've done, and here it is. Yeah, so I hope over the coming weeks I can sort out my screen furniture a little bit better. But tonight, what do we have? We have Deep Thoughts. This is the sort of replacement or equivalent of, in other religions, they have like a sermon, a thought for the day, if you want. We shall, and that's sort of the main part of the service. We won't have hymns because, it's a bit silly. You're supposed to have, if you're going to sing together, you have to be together, and this is an chapel that we have found ourselves in tonight. So there won't be any singing, unfortunately. After we've had Deep Thoughts, we will contemplate a face of ERIS in a segment I like to call Faces of ERIS. More about that later on, obviously, when we get to the segment. Then we will have Reflective Tarot, in which we take a tarot card for the week and reflect upon its meaning unto us this week. So essentially, it's like a sort of 3-layer of thought patties that goes into that part. Then, of course, we have Conda, which is just a way of writing Q&A, sort of an AMA section. If you're wondering what it is that you've sort of signed up for and tuned into, that is the point at which you will find that. And finally, we will be doing the weekly sacrament. If you want to join us in doing the weekly sacrament, this is my... Right, okay, so in other churches, you are supposed to consume some holy item that may be hard to come by and maybe even slightly cannibalistic and unsavory. I'm not mentioning which churches they are or indeed what they have. And what they do instead is they give you a little dry biscuit and some sour grape juice instead. That's just other churches are available. So on a Friday, a Discordian is supposed to consume a hot dog, and these here, this is my hot dog. Yeah, I'll just there we go. Yeah, hot dogs right here. We have chat. That there in the chat, that is my son pretending to be me. Hello, son. Welcome. Father's at work. Well, sort of voluntary work. Doing a Discordian service. So here we go. This is what I use as my hot dog replacement. So we shall do a sacrament. It would be a good, appropriate, if you could find some small... The reason I chose these is because they're small red tubes. So they look a little bit like hot dogs we are supposed to eat hot dogs. Yes, son, he is next door watching, supporting me always. What a wonderful, loyal son he is. When we do the sacrament, son, you can come in and I will give you one off camera as well, so we can both do the sacrament if that's what you like. Okay, of course it does help to indoctrinate your children into the spiritual life. Not now, later in the service. I'll call you in. Yeah, it does help to indoctrinate your children into your spiritual beliefs if you have got a sacrament that is basically candy. So yeah, just it's a coincidence that this is candy. If I had some other small tubular red thing, then I could use that. But anyway, so if you want to join us in the sacrament, please do that. Also, I do note that this will be going to YouTube so that you can enjoy your weekly Discordian service asynchronously with the actual service. So there we go. I think that's all the housekeeping out of the way. So we will return now to the service, and we will start this week. Oh yeah, I need to focus on this screen. There we go. That's it. Deep Thoughts is coming this week, and what I thought was that this week, we would be talking about the journey, because you might be asking yourself, sat in your seat watching this Discordian service, how did this, much like the words of the Saint David Byrne, how did I get here? And by I mean me. The pastor, Eno M. Coney, keeper of the sacred cow, official priest of the Discordian Church. How did he get to be there in the big boy chair? And that is because I went on a journey, and the journey was this. Step one, I decided to be a Discordian. Step two, I ummed and ahed about this for many years. And now here I am, sat in the big boy chair. And it's weird, because if you went to many other religious organisations around the world and sat in their service, you wouldn't be able to go, well, I give that service 3 stars out of 10, 3 sacred cows out of 5, or even 10. I didn't think it was good. I didn't rate it. Yeah, you can't do that, because what are you going to do? Run your own church next week? I mean, you can, but there's a lot of kerfuffle before people will accept you in many other churches. But in Discordianism, you are a priest just the same as anyone else. If you don't like my service, you know what you can do? You can run your own service. And if you want, you can have blackjack and hookers. In fact, you can forget the service. But anyway, I digress. Let's move on. So yes, what is this? What are you looking at? You're hearing my voice and you're seeing a long tunnel with darkness at the end. And this, my friends, is a metaphor. It is a metaphor for existence, for life itself. Yeah, groovy. Yeah, it is just a long, dimly lit tunnel with ominous darkness at the end of it. That is what this is, and that represents life. And obviously, if you stare at life in this way, if you stare at the poorly lit tunnel with the darkness at the end of it, and you don't do anything about that situation, you will go mad. Well, in fact, you do go mad. Because what you do in order to distract yourself from the fact that you are staring down a long, poorly lit tunnel with darkness at the end of it is that you begin to adorn the tunnel with things. Now, in this case, we have a sort of orangish diamond with some ducks in it. Now, this could stand for or represent any belief that you may hold. But what you're doing is you're filling up the tunnel with things. So here is a warning not to go surfing because the waves are quite big. Another belief you may hold, a phobia, if you like, of surfing. I have, of course, chosen these symbols because they don't really relate to the kind of big symbols that we choose to furnish our reality with. You will not be seeing any of those. You will instead be seeing things like a warning to be careful with the high heels. Yes, because these are symbols that we can abstract ourselves from and understand that the person who is walking down this tunnel now is starting to litter it with distractions, signs, beliefs, dare I say, superstitions or faiths or whatever you want, dogmas of all kinds. And in fact, we can even start to block out that dark ending with a "don't come in here" sign, with a postman hugging the white bar, not entirely sure what that's about. And of course, the sacred cow. What better distraction from the utter pointlessness of life than the symbol of our own wonderful church of the Discordians, and indeed the contemplation of chaos. And once you've integrated that into your life, it becomes really very obvious. You could just stick things anywhere. They don't have to be stuck to the wall. They could just be floating in space. That is a sort of metaphor for concepts that have broken free from the tyranny of walls or blockages, and they're just floating around there. In fact, they are chaos. Here is chaos. It's another symbol, it's another metaphor, but now we're bringing it in. I want you to be self-conscious. Oh, my son is eager to take the sacrament. It'll be at the part where it says sacrament on the screen. Has a picture of hot dogs, son. Watch out for the hot dogs, okay? So that's fine. You just relax, enjoy the ride, okay? And that's what I'm going to say. Life is a ride. Yeah, somebody said that. I believe that it was a comedian, who said that, and that also makes him a Discordian, a fool, and a saint, all at the same time. So Saint Hicks, he said life is a ride, and this is the ride. Sometimes rides can be scary. You stare, and the little man there, he is staring into the face of chaos. And the reality tunnel that we just described, the symbols that he surrounds himself are like a window that he puts up in front, so he can believe he's in a house watching the chaos, and that he's got, symbols of stuff around him, there they are, and he's built that reality tunnel with all of these different symbols. I said that we wouldn't see any of the big symbols, but I think that the yin-yang of Zen Buddhism and the like, and indeed the very basis of our own sacred cow, is allowable due to the fact that it's been so appropriated by surfers and the like. The yin-yang has become such a ubiquitous symbol throughout the 1960s to the present day that it no longer holds a sort of deep sort of symbolic value that associates it with deeply with a particular religion. Maybe I'm wrong. You could come back at me, bro. Put it in the comments on YouTube. If you're here, drop it in the chat, whatever it is. But essentially what happens once you've surrounded yourself with these symbols is that you gain the illusion of order. And what ERIS is trying to tell us all the time is that chaos is everything, and order is the illusion that we put in order to cope with our lives. It's not a bad illusion. People think that illusions are bad, but like a film, a movie, that's an illusion. Is that bad? Is a movie bad? No, it's entertaining. Keeps us going. It feeds our brains. It gives us more to think about. In fact, it's an illusion that is an illusion factory. It is there to create more illusions. So illusions are actually great. It stops us from going utterly bonkers in an unproductive way. Consensus reality. That is mostly an illusion. Like the way that you could describe it is that a lot of the structures of our apparent reality are an illusion that help us to feel safe and stop us from going bonkers, but you can't walk in front of a speeding car and go, but you're just part of consensus reality, and get away with it. Sometimes consensus reality does bite back. So there we are in our reality tunnels, because we have ours, that is in the top left hand corner there. That's the guy that we've been looking at. The analogy for us, if you want, if you will, these are the symbols that he surrounded himself with, and these are some other people in his society. They've all got their own sets of symbols. And sometimes we have the same symbols. Now that is fine, because this is where we make connections with people. Yeah, one of our reality tunnel symbols overlaps strongly with one of theirs, and that gives us a basis for connection with that person. We might become friends, colleagues, whatever it is. We are building together. And of course, we've got 4 symbols here because that's the room on the Google slide. Yeah, but we in our reality tunnels can have hundreds of symbols. So there's ways that we can overlap strongly with someone, or ways that we don't overlap strongly with someone. Like, if you'll notice, the guy in the bottom right, he has no symbols in common with the guy in the top left. They probably would not get along. You also have a problem here where the person in the bottom left there has an anti-symbol for the person on the bottom right, and this is I don't need to tell you, intuitively you must know what this means. If one person is strongly in favor of a symbol and the other person is strongly not in favor of that symbol, then that can cause a problem, friction between those two people. And thankfully we have the blessing of social media where they can be absolutely toxic to one another and ruin each other's days in an unsafe, unmoderated, capitalist driven sort of platform for that. But at least they've got a place to go, hey? They at least got a place to go to ruin each other's brains, possibly unnecessarily, when they could be concentrating on something else. But that's not it. I mean, it's not just that people sometimes have beliefs that go counter to one another. That's definitely something that happens. I'm glad I bought this glass of water. The other thing that can happen is that they have technically the same symbol, but it means different things to each one, and therefore they can have a big disagreement, and that can cause real problems, because of course the guy up there in the top left and the guy in the bottom left, or girl, it doesn't matter, the person of non-specific gender in both of those cases, they both love the blue heart, but one of them loves something maybe a bit more traditional, and somebody loves in a sort of spiritual, religious sense. Someone loves something a little less traditional, and that is obviously going to be a problem between them, or not obviously, but they need to work it out. Yeah, sometimes things overlap and it's beautiful. Sometimes things overlap but they don't quite fit right together. And of course, if you multiply this over hundreds of thousands of people all around the globe, all with reality tunnels filled with hundreds of symbols, some of them overlap, some of them run counter to one another, some of them are kind of the same but in different in important ways between those two people, you return to a state of chaos. Yeah. So we've gone on a journey now from a person with no filters, nothing to surround them, that gives them context, that brings them any measure of peace, that makes them, is in risk of exposing them to true chaos, which actually ERIS reminds us will never happen. She can see true chaos. She's a goddess. But you are a human. You could never comprehend true chaos. You just wouldn't happen. Yeah. But the closer you edge to it, the more mentally unstable it becomes. So you get these symbols and you surround yourself with them, and that is absolutely great. Yeah, it gives you some sort of illusion of order. But when your reality tunnel and everyone else's reality tunnel start to clash and mingle, sometimes you overlap, sometimes you don't agree with each other on something, sometimes there's some other source of conflict. Again, chaos is there again, just outside the window, and that brings us around to the idea that possibly the thing that you need to anchor yourself in amongst all of this chaos, some of it created just naturally as part of existence and some of it created by other people, is the soothing balm of Discordianism, Hail Eris, the sacred cow there. If that is a major part of your reality tunnel, then the rest of it is much easier to cope with. So there, that was today's deep thought. Okay, so that was the deep thought for today. I hope you got something out of it, you take it away, and so on and so forth. We've been having some support there from my son. He even put a really good emote in there to indicate the unhealthy possibilities of clashing reality tunnels. So great support there. So this is the second part of the service today, a segment called Faces of ERIS. And I've put there for this week, although we will alter this as time goes by, a kind of spiritual Where's Wally? Yeah, the idea of this is that the goddess is around us, she surrounds us, and she reminds us that we exist. A practice, yeah, of Discordians is to sort of focus on that. I mean, to be fair, it's kind of been co-opted. It's this idea that that you could, what you manifest and think about, what you think about will manifest. Yeah, but that's a really dangerous path of thought, in my opinion, because we're humans and humans are stupid, right? So you will just think of it like, I'm just going to think of, tons of ice cream, and then I manifest tons of ice cream, and then I eat tons of ice cream, and then I get diabetes and I die. Yeah, because humans haven't got the best self-control, right? So as much as a Discordian, a Discordian, me, we're prohibited from believing anything that we read, and that is a kind of metaphor for not sort of taking things on face value. Maybe you could sort of focus your mind on manifesting something like an encounter with ERIS. Maybe she'll have some words from you and you can bring them here to the church, and I would love to hear what ERIS has been telling you, because indeed ERIS has been telling me things, and that's great, and I want to know that I'm not alone in that. So let's go on. Oh, you're not stupid. Everyone's stupid, son, in some way. Everyone's stupid. I shouldn't have that extra cake, but I do. I'm stupid. I shouldn't wear a hat on my head and buy scarves, ceremonial scarves, or make ceremonial scarves to take a sacrament. I should. Well, there's an argument to say I shouldn't, but I do. So here we go. Chaos again. And ERIS steps in front of the chaos and comes forth. And this week she is wearing the mask of the Savage She-Hulk. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, this week, this is what ERIS came to me. She said, I'm coming to you in the guise of the Savage She-Hulk. Okay, cool. Right, so what does that mean? Well, first of all, a little history. We're not talking about any particular iteration of the She-Hulk. That is why the image of the She-Hulk here is the actual issue 1 of the comic She-Hulk. Yeah, this is the cover I used to have. And I don't think it was a reprint either. I think I actually had this. And it was because my father believed heavily in keeping me quiet by buying me comics out of the 10p bargain comic bucket, a particular bookshop he used to visit. And amazingly, and I'm confident it wasn't reprint. I can't check because it went the way of all comics owned by small boys, and I don't have it anymore. But it was like basically the first run, issues 1 through 5, I think it was, and they were all 10p. Nobody in the UK particularly wanted, or it was before all of that idea of people being like proper comic collectors, so I don't think people regarded the actual items at that time with much reverence. The plastic bags and the acid free paper boxes and all of that kind of stuff, that all came just a little bit after this point. So at the time that I got this for 10p out of a wire basket in a bookshop, yeah, it was at a time when people just regard it as kids stuff. Yeah, so there we go. I would love to still have that number 1. It wasn't even the British print, because when they did British reprints of Marvel Comics, they blew them up to like A4, whereas of course the comic book size is slightly smaller than that. So I know it was like a US one that had come over, in a plane on a boat or whatever, and someone had tried to sell it in their comic shop, and nobody had wanted the Savage She-Hulk. And why not indeed? Because comic fans and aficionados of that time would possibly have been aware that the She-Hulk character exists, or was brought into existence, solely to protect intellectual property. You see, Marvel have always been particularly terrible at selling the rights to make, say, movies, video games, television series based upon their properties. And if the female version of a character didn't exist in the Marvel sphere, some contracts for television were worded in such a way that if they owned the right to make the main character, then because the female character didn't exist in the Marvel comic sphere, the television studio, in fact, this was a standard boilerplate thing that originated with the $6 million Man. Yeah, Steve Austin, we can rebuild him. They made a man. He had cybernetics inside of him. And they made the $6 million woman. And the creators of the $6 million Man were like, you can't do that. And the television executives like, we can and we don't have to pay you. Jokes. So, yeah, at that point, Stan Lee, for It Is He, became very aware that if he wanted to protect, for example, the female version of the Hulk, he would have to make sure there was a comic with that. And it says here on the issue 1, Stan Lee proudly presents The She-Hulk Lives, and it is true, he wrote the first issue of The Savage She-Hulk and then quickly passed on the buck to John Romita, and he didn't write She-Hulk again until the 90s, right? But the point was that he wanted it to exist. He wanted to be able to say to television studios, you're not just going to make a She-Hulk series, yeah, and just not give us any money because we didn't create She-Hulk, because there it is. That's the She-Hulk, right down there. Oh, wrong way, pointed the wrong way. Right down there, there she is. You can't do it, so you have to pay us. So that's why the She-Hulk even exists, right? And then they weirdly made their well, I don't think it's weird at all. Like, essentially, She-Hulk is like She-Hulk Barbie. Yeah, she's like Hulk Barbie. Yeah, she's just so that Bruce Banner obviously was a big time, nuclear physicist. Right, and they needed a sort of thing where it's like they wanted that contrast again. You have Hulk, you have the scientist, the two parts, the yin and the yang of that character. Yeah, but they didn't want to make her a scientist for some reason. Well, possibly because if you had two Hulks who were both scientists, then And at the same time, well, apart from anything else, that always goes badly because, you have Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman. I guess she's supposed to be a scientist as well, but she kind of gets overshadowed by Reed Richards. And then there's Janet Van Dyne. You have the Ant-Man and the Wasp, the original. What was she even? Was she a scientist? Or was she anything? So they were like, no, well, they're not. She-Hulk and Hulk are not married. They're cousins. Yeah, and she can't be a scientist. We'll make her a lawyer. Yeah, because that's an important job, and it's a contrast to the Hulk. And you'll notice that on the issue 1, She-Hulk is drawn because there probably wasn't much direction, as if she's like doing the Hulk smash girl thing. But they decided to go a slightly different way with the She-Hulk persona, which is one of the reasons why this is where all the while ERIS is there weaving the web. Yeah, essentially the Hulk, of course, is a metaphor, and all Hulks are a metaphor for two ultimately separate people, but they inhabit the same physical space. They can't be in the same place at the same time. They can't really have a conversation with one another because they're separated by the fact that when one is in the space of existence, the other one is, well, nowhere. They don't exist. Yeah, so they swap. They timeshare the existence of one life. Yeah, but in the case of the Hulk, the original Hulk, that is like a line in the sand, or at least later on writers started to mess about with that line, and that was actually seen as quite a dreaded thing. Yeah, for Bruce Banner didn't like having to interact with his hulky side, and in fact Jennifer Walters didn't really like interacting with the She-Hulk when she believed that the She-Hulk was a separate persona. See, Bruce Banner always, like, even in the films, he's the other guy. Yeah, it's two guys. There's Bruce Banner, the scientist, suave, kind of quiet, kind of bookish, and then there's the guy who uses half a hatchback as boxing gloves, right? So he draws a line. He says the two of them, it's a service, son. This is the service. We're going through the service order. The sacrament is at the end. I will be calling you. Have faith. That's what this is all about. Have faith. It will happen. The cake is not a lie, or sweetie in this case. But anyway, yeah. But so She-Hulk kind of had a much more. The writers felt freer to sort of say, well, she could say, well, they're both me. It's just one me's big and green and strong and all of this, and the other one's a tiny little lawyer lady, and they're both me. Yeah, but then that's the thing. Whereas Bruce Banner and the Hulk kept themselves separate. And later on it became you have to merge these two personalities together, a Smart Hulk being the ultimate result of that, which is kind of weird. Yeah, She-Hulk was like, no, they're both me, but then she started to think, but are they both me? Like Jennifer Walters started to think, when I'm She-Hulk, all this cool stuff happens to She-Hulk, but it doesn't happen to me. So in what sense am I the same person? And it becomes a kind of meditation on this kind of, if this was the situation, where is your identity? Is it a green one or the other one? So Hulks as a whole are an embodiment of order and chaos. I've done the PowerPoint thing now, haven't I, of just reading out the slide, but we'll put this together. So we've got a scientist and a raging brute, and a lawyer and an Amazonian queen bee, and what it's saying is that it tells us all, again, we're back to order and chaos, that we need to trade with chaos in order to be rounded, but we also need to create order in order to stabilize our minds. And Hulk is a great example of this. Hulk is one who can see the chaos, and therefore he is a raging brute, whereas Banner cannot really perceive the chaos because he keeps trying to make order. And of course there is that circularity. The more you try to create order, the more chaos is created, and the more you try to create chaos, the more order is created. It's weird. Like, that's the thing. It's the sacred cow shows us oh god, am I doing it right? There we go. The sacred cow shows us the 5-pointed pentagon and the golden apple represent a dot of order in chaos and chaos in order. It is like, that is why, and this is possibly a reason why the yin yang has become such a powerful symbol, so deep inside us that it's become even cliched or banal, is because order and chaos mix. One element contains the seed of the opposite, and each one does, and that is a continuum, and we kind of understand that. So there we go. And She-Hulk is a woman, which does she identifies as female in either form, yeah, because she has to, for IP reasons. I mean, that is great. Your gender is dictated by somebody trying to protect their intellectual property. Hilarious. But the point is that in this segment here, the Faces of ERIS, we may not necessarily have a man or a woman, because we can also have non-binary Faces of ERIS. We can have male Faces of ERIS and female Faces of ERIS and non-binary Faces of ERIS. We can have Faces of ERIS that are objects or television series or movies or whatever. The goddess shows us her face through things. So I started with She-Hulk because it's good, like it's easy to grasp onto. So this we had a really easy to grasp onto, where in the future we may have ones that are slightly more esoteric. But there we go. Hail ERIS, She-Hulk. ERIS came to me as She-Hulk this week, and that is how it is. So she is the face of ERIS for this week. Okay, so it's the quiz show part of the service. For those of you whose buttocks are starting to get a bit numb in those pews here, the rest of the service should be a relatively quick slide through chaos. This is the last part of the 3-patty concept burger. Now, the one thing that I'm going to need to do here is, I could go game focus. Here we go. Have a think about it. I actually need to get the tarot cards because I forgot to put them easily to hand. Here I go. This is it. Now, I have more than one tarot deck, and many of them, I have a good selection of them that are all what you might call. Let's actually go full for this, because this is the point. So yeah. Before we do though, before we do, what do I mean by reflective tarot? Okay, this is a concept that came to me, in fact, for this service. Yeah, there are people who do like tarot readings, just tarot. It's tarot. We're doing tarot in what we might describe as a vanilla sense. Yeah, which is what you might read about in a tarot manual or whatever. Yeah, but then you have people who do like psychic tarot that is explicitly, directed to have a psychic component. Yeah, but then you have also tarot, which is reflective. That's the kind of tarot I do. I have actually written a sort of. There is a Discordian tarot, but the Discordian tarot the Discordian tarot is a completely different system. You could get a PDF of it off the internet very easily. Just search for Discordian tarot. I don't work with the Discordian tarot because my relationship to, the more traditional tarot deck goes further back. So I don't need another system, and it doesn't resonate with me, whereas these do. But I have a number of sort of personal rules or like things that seem philosophically to be the case. For example, there was a stage at my tarot journey where I used to lay out 7 cards for the coming week until I realised, that the work of the card that was doing next Sunday was far greater than the work of the card that was doing like tomorrow. Because one was 7 days away and a lot can happen in 7 days, and one was tomorrow. So that seemed wrong to me. How could the cards are equal? They can't do differing amounts of work, for example. So, these are the sort of things. I'm going to write it down in a book. Oh, yeah, by the way, for those of you that don't realise, SWDP, that stands for South Wales Discordian Press. I'll probably talk about that a bit more in candor in a minute, but that's in case you were there, like, SWDP, what is that? It's the Discordian Press, which I'll talk about in a bit. But right now it's time for Reflective Tarot. So I'm going to quickly go through the deck here, and I'm going to see if I can get a vibe. I've got a vibe. Here is the vibe. The card of the week. Oh, right. Finally, before we look at the card of the week, Reflective Tarot. Why is it reflective? Because I'm not asking the card to tell me the future. I'm not asking the card to do anything. Like anything I know, the card can know. And anything that's potential, the card could also know, and it can point me in a direction, and so on and so forth. But it is essentially a mirror, and hence reflective. We'll go into it more at another time, maybe in candor. I doubt it, but maybe. Okay, so because there isn't anyone here to candor, really. So let's do it. Here's the card. Boom, ba boom, ba boom. Drum roll. This week's card is. Oh wow. Okay, that is an interesting card to have for this week. Wow. Came out of the middle as well. I mean, I didn't just take the card off the top. I found a card. I went hunting for a card. I went card hunting. The Hanged Man. The Hanged Man, everyone. It'd be really nice if I had a button that could, screenshot me holding the card up, because I've put the cards away now, but we're just going to have to stick with it. And I could stick the card to the screen. I'm going to look into it, see if there's such a device that I could pull. Even just a little stick that holds up, or sticking it into my mic stand. These are all things that might be possible, but not this week. So we remember we had the Hanged Man. Okay, so what is the Hanged Man? The Hanged Man is one of what I like to refer to as the loud secrets. The loud secrets are those ones that people know about, like the death card, the devil card. Those are the ones that come up in like Hollywood movies and stuff. They are all like being gripped by the collar and having the concept shouted into your face, hence loud. Not one of the sneaky secrets, which is any of the pip cards, which you probably, if you're not familiar with tarot, you wouldn't know anyway. So the Hanged Man stands for a sort of a spiritual path, and in a way this week's service is an actual reflection, a tribute to that thought, the thought of being on some kind of a journey, a spiritual journey, and seeking some kind of spiritual insight or revelation. And that's me. I'm the Hanged Man this week. This is me hanging myself, which you may choose to interpret as a metaphor for my foolishness in undertaking this practice. But hey, whatever, that is the card for the week. So indeed, what we are endorsed by the random chance of chaos, and therefore Eris's hand, Hail Eris, has brought us this card, is to think about our spiritual journey and the spiritual sacrifice that we're made. I, to be fair, have sacrificed some cash, more time than I might have liked. I'm hoping that the process of putting these services together gets shorter the more times I do a service, which they probably will, because many of these slides you will see again. But I've sacrificed a number of things, including an hour-ish. I think that's where we're going to end up, which is about right, for the service itself, in order to be here tonight. Yeah, and I'm going to sacrifice more to put it on YouTube, and I'm going to sacrifice more. Every new iteration, every new service will be another sacrifice on that spiritual path, and I will continue to go along that path for the foreseeable future until the path changes and becomes something else, or I receive my spiritual enlightenment. But I suppose if we're going to get a little bit mythical, the Hanged Man is often associated with the idea that Odin hung himself from Yggdrasil, the world tree, and tore out an eye in order to gain insight, because myths like mythological irony. And that's the thing. It doesn't always have to be someone hanging themselves off the tree that holds up the universe and ripping out an eye. Do not rip out your own eye in expectation that you will get two really cool crows who know everything about thought and memory, or an eye patch, or you'll suddenly become the star. A literal star will light up in your eye. It's probably not going to happen. It happened to Odin. It was like a one-time deal. Everybody gets one. Spider-Man brought him, all that stuff. Yeah. So, your own spiritual path and your own spiritual sacrifice, your own spiritual journey should bring you to a place where you know what you have to do next. So in my case, it's a Discordian service just to see what happens, try and bring a few others together. That is one of the things that is, the saddest thing about the low turnout this week, but obviously I'm hoping that it will grow, is that Discordians have not hitherto really had a congregation of spirit. And I'm hoping, even if it's asynchronous, even if it takes the turn of a post bag, that's right, which is no better time to go on to the next segment. Kanda! No muss, no fuss. Kanda! I do like this, actually. When people are like, is anybody getting questions? It's always a bit awkward, eh? But the fact that we are invoking now the chaotic god of inquiry, this sub-god, servant of Eris, Kanda. And he says, the floor is open. If you have a question for me that isn't, are you going to call me in or not, then you are now welcome to ask that. And in fact, if you are watching this on YouTube, where I'm probably going to direct this, mostly, leave it in the comments. There will be a post bag element to this, and Kanda will of course be part. It's essentially a way of saying any other business. Does anyone want to talk anyway? And in fact, yes, this is the thing. I wanted a place for Discordians to congregate, even if it is an e-chapel running on Twitch and then uploaded to YouTube for your later delectation. I wanted there to be this. I wanted to create this space. Yeah, and I think possibly one of the things that is that we'll talk about this at another time, but essentially I think there is a measure at which faith is an important component of anyone's reality tunnel, and the purpose of Discordianism is to provide a healthy place for that faith to go, because it is built into its DNA and notions of equality. Like, I'm a priest, you're a priest. I run a service. If you feel you want to run a service, you go ahead and run a service, man. It's all good for you. Yeah. And I wanted to create that so that we could all resonate that energy a bit further. My son's now looking at me very darkly, so I guess that means it is time. Holy cow, it's the weekly sacrament. Stand off camera, son. We don't want your little face. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's little Dylan, everyone. Little Dylan, star of stream.
I did the multiverses stream.
You did multiverses stream?
I did the gaming stream.
He does the gaming streams.
Other streams.
Well, I do some gaming streams. I do some gaming streams as well. So yeah. Yeah. Okay. So now it is time. It is time. I'm going to leave the weekly sacrament.
The hottie dog.
Okay. Here we go. Yes. I unscrew the vessel
hottie
that
dogs.
contains... Right. Okay, so if you're a little bit confused about this bit, you're watching this, you're like, what do hot dogs have to do with it? Of course, so the party... Right.
Dogs.
ERIS was not invited to a party where other gods were invited. So she got... This was known as the original snub, and this is where she threw in the apple, the golden apple that said for the fairest one on it, and it all led to the Trojan War. And then after she'd thrown the golden apple, she went off by herself, so the myth has it, and ate a hot dog, and she couldn't find any buns. Yeah? So as a recreation of this moment, on a Friday, a Discordian is enjoined to eat a hot dog, but no bun. So take this, son. There we go. You've got it. Don't eat it. Don't just put it in your mouth. You've got to wait. Got to wait. Okay. So
Harry Potter one.
yeah, which is a perfectly chaotic thing to have brought into the sacrament. So if you're joining us now for the sacrament, hold the sacrament forth in front of you like this and recite after me the rhyme. Well, no, you don't have to recite it. I'll recite the rhyme. You can join in if you know the words later on.
Let me cover my face.
Okay, and you don't have to be... No, you just have it off camera. It's fine. You're good. And you can, in fact, recite with me later, but I'm going to recite it now so that you hear it for the first time.
Also,
the hot dog rhyme, which goes like this. I could not find a hot dog, not even with a bun. So I eat this candy noodle because devotion comes with fun. Hail Eris!
Hail Eris!
There we go. Getting my son involved in unsavoury spiritual practices. Although he does like the sweets, so that's good.
No.
That's great. High five, son.
I do it is because of the sweets.
Yeah. He doesn't believe all this stuff.
No.
Which is actually a very good Discordian of him. Don't believe any of it. I should actually make a thing, like a disclaimer. The spiritual practices, next week, watch out for it. There'll be a new slide. It's going to be great. And I believe... that's all she wrote, or indeed issued unforth unto her congregation. So I hope you've enjoyed this week's Discordian service. Yeah, I really enjoyed. I've enjoyed putting it together. I've enjoyed doing it, and to be fair, it was yummy. The sacrament was yummy. Yeah, well, that is an advantage of using a small red licorice and candy tube. As your sacrament, is that it is actually delicious, and I think why not have a delicious element to your spiritual practices? Eating a little sweet reminds you that Eris is sweet. She's not sweet. She's just there to remind you. She doesn't care about you like the universe doesn't care about you, and you have to watch out for chaos. Yeah, and if you want to hang out, that's cool, yeah, but ask if you want to take anything from the fridge. And I think that is as good a place to conclude our Discordian service for the 30th of October. It's not October. 30th of August. We'll talk about that more next week, because next week it'll be a different month. And you may know that month as September, but I don't. And at the moment, I don't know that month as anything, because I name the months as they occur in conference with the goddess. So about Saturday night, me and the goddess are going to get into a little powwow. She's going to tell me what next month is called. But this is the year of Our Lady 2024. Because she just likes to sort of like spiritual photobombing, really. I mean, we've got very unkeen on referring to it as the Anno Domini, the year of our Lord. So, yeah, wonder what that would be. Would that be Anno? I don't know what it would be. Anyone not suggestions, translations on a postcard. What's the female equivalent of Anno Domini? Because I'm saying in the year of Our Lady, IYL, but it occurs to me, well, Anno is year, so it'll be Anno something. But Anno Dominatrix. Oh my God, that's nearly true. That's so cool, if it's allowed. Latin scholars who are also Discordians, go on to me here. Can we in fact say 2024 AD Anno Dominatrix in the year of our mistress? Because that would be awesome. I have to... The very last thing, before we depart from this realm for another week until the next service. I have to apologise, and I am going to try and fix this. It has come to my attention that my desktop audio stream through the OBS mixer does not work, and that is a crying shame, because the music that I've got running in the background of this whole malarkey, which is perfectly stream safe and everything, is also the most beautiful Discordian music. Even though I don't know who the person is who made it. I know they call themselves the Coconut Monkey Rocket, but I've never met the lady or gentleman. I'm not assuming any gender or in between, not wanting to pigeonhole. I have never met the Coconut Monkey Rocket and do not know what that person is, but I do know they made an album called With Birds that is the most supremely appropriate accompaniment for a Discordian service. I can hear it now. You cannot hear it because for some reason OBS is not translating it to you, and that is something for which I am truly sorry. But yes, I shall try and fix that. Ending on some banal technical housework. What a great way to go. Until next time, may the goddess be with you, may the goddess appear to you, and may you eat the sacrament in the knowledge that she and you have both been not invited to all the best parties. Farewell.